Hey y'all, it's Rev Ma, and I wanted to share. I felt called to share, and I wanted to start with. Um, so I've been going through a clearing of the throat, and my whole family is going through a clearing of the throat, and we are doing it on behalf of the collective. And for me personally, my portion of clearing it for the collective in living that you are your own medicine, and the ways that we heal ourselves in the specificities of our own personalities, the ways that we heal ourselves is how we contribute to the relief in the collective of the weight of the negativity and the stuck energy and the lower chakra density conflicts and dramas that we inherit, to wash, to release, to cleanse, to liberate into the harmony that Mother Nature is currently cultivating as part of the cosmic flow of life that she is part of and that we are part of as humans, as animals, as beings that are part of Mother Nature here on this planet. Regardless of where we are embodiments of Mother Nature. Our bones, our sinew, our muscles, our nerves are all part of nature. We are animals, and that is just a fact of nature, and it's a wonderful thing once we are able to tap into the medicines that nature offers us by things like working with plants and working with animals, and that can be as easy as tapping into your own spirit animals, your own ancestors, and their spirit animals, their lineages, and those wisdoms are in your bones already. They already move through you, and so being available to receive Mother Nature's lessons is very important. And as a pagan priestess, as a 20 years initiated, self-initiated pagan in the old ways, that has been an active member of a coven for a portion of her life, as a high priestess, and who has attended and been blessed by many embodiments of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. I have received many spiritual endowments, many blessings to be able to maintain my connection. And so I want to honor that as I share with you this random reading from this book, The Goddess in Every Girl, Develop Your Feminine Power. And it's by MJ, and it's Abadi, Abadie. And this is a more recently published book, I believe. But I want to, 2002, and then republished in 2013. And this is a book I would like to use in my ministry once I have classes established. This is one of the books I want to use. And so I have found it to be very well written and well researched. And so I'm here to share this with you. So there are 2 quotes on the side of the page. And The first one is from Anais Nin. And Anais Nin, on a personal note, is a sculptor. And she was also the lover of Henry Miller during the flapping era, for those of you who didn't know that. And she was quite notorious in her time for being a liberated woman. And I actually found out about her because I was looking up 9 Inch Nails. And the shorthand for 9 Inch Nails is Nin. And so that's how I found Anais Nin and learned about her through a book of photos of her hands sculpting and quotes from her that were truly inspiring. So, her quote here is, "Life shrinks or expands according to one's courage." And the next quote here is from Mark Twain. Okay, the personal note on Mark Twain is high school and reading one of his books, Huckleberry Finn probably, and being like, man, the stuff I have to say about this shit is not even something they want us to talk about. And then the teacher being like, man, when you get into creativity, you're so good. When you get to write, when you get to include what you like in what we ask you to write about, you write great. But when we tell you what to write about and how to write about it, you're terrible at it. You don't do it. Why is that? I'm so perplexed. My teacher was. She was so perplexed. Or why I couldn't talk about this damn Huckleberry Finn book. You know, because I'm like, Huckleberry Finn takes place in nature. You know, and I'm like, man, I want to talk about, you know, what's going on in nature. You know, you guys have no space for me to talk about that. So I have nothing to say. Shit. And that reminds me of my favorite thing from English classes was this binder that we all had to put together in 9th grade of stories that we wrote, short stories that we wrote, vignettes that were inspired by Sandra Cisneros' book of vignettes. And she, my teacher was like, her notes on my final copy was something like surprising originality, you know, because I dedicated all of my vignettes to the goddess and the old god, and I wrote about nature and dreams, and it's so awesome, you know. And so it was a pride and joy to have that damn binder, you know, because wow, really rereading those vignettes that I came up with, you know, it was sacred space, man, sacred territory. It was really powerful blessings that came through, you know. And so that's where Mark Twain always takes me, you know, to that love of nature, you know. And so his quote here is, "Courage is not the lack of fear. It is acting in spite of it." You know, and for those of you that need that clarification about what courage is and about what bravery is, because bravery is a very sharp discipline of courage. being able to chop it, like when you're chopping, and you're chopping with precision, you know. So this section here is Leo, and I say it like that because I don't do astrology, but I know a lot of y'all do, you know. So I'm just honoring that, but also acknowledging that we have to be really careful about how we approach astrology, because astrology is meant to take us to the stars. And if we don't have a direct relationship with the stars, then our perception of the constellations and their meanings can be very distorted. So that's your ancestral message. And so the quote here, or the statement that begins this section, is, "I seek the goddess through what I create." And I'm sharing this because what called to me in sharing this was this cat and Bast. And I was just thinking about the Goddess Bast and the call for me to establish a devotion to her, because I've never actually formally had a devotion to her. And so, just real quick, what that means to translate from pagan terms, what that means to those of you who don't understand that, is that establishing a devotion is a way of making payment and asking for something in return. And you make payments how they prefer, and because these are real beings. And so as you make payment, that is a way for you to call them and acknowledge specific gifts that they have. And so that's a key piece around the teaching of learning the offerings when you're approaching deities. And this is very important because there are many deities and many beings that are available, and each of them has specific requirements or specific offerings that they ask for. And we can also say exchanges, because there is an exchange of energy. When we offer the offerings that they ask for, or recognize the symbols that they are connected with, we begin to have a more dynamic relationship with the spirit realm. And the vast majority of people at this point have not really been able to do that, because they haven't learned to value deities beyond a Christian demonization of deities and beings outside of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, which is this really broad concept anyway. And the Father, you know. So many people, because of the craving for the expansion, so many people do so much with the Holy Spirit. You know, they reinterpret the Holy Spirit in all these ways. When you look at local Christian communities and you really connect with local Christian communities the way that I have, I've walked into being recruited, you know, walked into conversations that led to me being recruited to talk to, you know, ministers that were high ranking in churches that were teaching the Holy Spirit was a feminine, and seeing that the feminine was being mentioned in the Bible. And I, you know, having been a priestess and things, but not ever talking about that really, well, it was very familiar and comfortable for me to talk about the feminine in Christianity and things, and to be in the feminine presence. And some people call that Sophia, some people call that wisdom, the goddess of wisdom in the Bible, you know. But there's a lot of different expressions of the I am, and there are a lot of beings that are here and available. And so we really get to choose to honor them and to learn and to be honored by them, by having them support us through our process, if we so choose to receive their guidance and support. And so we make the beginning of an offering by simply learning about them. And the more that we choose to think about them, we are beginning to offer a devotion. And that is a good way for me to explain that to you, to like translate. So I'm going to now, if you need to, you can pause. So I'm going to now read, what's on the page. With planets in Leo, when you are in the territory of Bast, the cat goddess who symbolized fire to the Egyptians. One of the oldest of the goddesses, Bast originated in the Nile Delta, but her worship quickly spread far and wide. Through her kinship with the moon, she belongs to the unitary world of the feminine, accented by the power of fire. As goddess of the East, fire is also associated with the goddess Sekhmet, who is the goddess of the moon, the sun. So that's a duality that exists in some aspects of Egyptian mythology and temple worship and worship in general, right, amongst the lay people and amongst the priests. Sekhmet of fire, the sun. As goddess of the East, going back to Bast, she represents birth and what is new, because the moon, as well as the sun, is born in the East and dies in the West. In Egyptian art, Bast sometimes appears as a cat-headed woman. Cats were sacred to her, and her followers filled her many shrines with cat images. And so this is like so deeply relevant for me right now, because cats, there are cats in my neighborhood, and they are coming around more. And this isn't the first time I've been in situations where I was around cats and cats took a liking to me or took a interest in me, and befriended me, and I say it like that because I have a cat allergy. It's a very specific allergy. It's if cat dander, if cat fur is on my pillow, and if it gets in my eyes while I'm asleep, then I wake up with swollen eyes and, swollen tear ducts. And it's a real shit show of bacterial infection. And I used to have to get these eye drops and stuff, before I really understood about like Benadryl. So now that I know about Benadryl, I just can take it before I have to deal with cats. But cats love me. And so here is to Bast. The nocturnal cat, whose eyes are thought to become as round as the full moon at night, is associated with pregnant women. And pregnant, for me, as a goddess worshiper, I have to say this because I have a tattoo on my arm, and it is of a pregnant-looking goddess. And she's really obese, but she could also just look pregnant and just be like a big woman who's pregnant, And, but every time people see this, the vast majority of people think that I got her pregnant on my arm because I wanted to become pregnant. And for me, as a goddess girl, my sense for pregnancy is more about being pregnant with possibility, because that is what the teachings of the maiden, the mother, and the crone have taught me to associate pregnancy with. Is you don't have to physically manifest pregnancy to fully experience the cyclical teachings and manifestation process of the gestation process of birth. And So that is something worth recognizing here, because it is a consistent message that I have received in all of my goddess studies, is that we are pregnant with possibility, and that is a very valid method of expressing our feminine nature. Thus, Bast is honored as a goddess of fertility and is associated with children's welfare. A goddess of pleasure and creativity, dancing, music, and art. The center of her worship was Bubastis, where many great celebrations were held. The Greek historian Herodotus, Herodotus reported that her Bast's worshippers arrived by the thousands for these festivals. The sign of Leo also relates to children and creativity, which is a orange chakra, creativity chakra, sacral chakra, usually associated with the two, children and creativity. Sometimes we associate the solar plexus, the yellow chakra, with creativity, and sometimes we associate the red chakra, the root chakra, with children. It really depends on the individual and their socialization. And if you are interested in really expanding into a well-written, well-researched, anecdotally researched by someone who was working in a community of people who were doing the same type of work, of working with chakras and doing energetic work and doing, this is the book that I used. And I did really deep work with each of my chakras. And the foundation was this book by Judith Wheeler, I believe her name is. But I'm going to look it up and share it with this, because I always, when I find that people are interested in chakras and people are really interested in chakras and they're really done with the simplicity with which chakras are treated, or with which chakra work is treated, and they really want to master their own issues and their own lessons, I always share that book. And so I feel called to do that now. And so I will also continue here. If you have one or more planets in Leo, your relationship to Bast indicates that your spiritual path lies in the realms of love and creativity. Now, there is a Bast goddess game here, which is like my favorite part of this game, of this book, is that there are goddess games, because that was just something I never did. So I'm like, oh my god. Before I read the goddess game, I would like to read the quote. Or I'm going to leave the quote till the end. Okay. So I'm really in love with this picture here. There's a picture. There's just like a clip art graphic of Bast. It's really cool. And you can tell that it's Bast because her ear is pierced. And she has the night sky as her buddy. She's regal. She's regal. Another thing that I noticed with this drawing is the Sphinx connection, the posture, um, the stature of this particular drawing is a very statuesque type of drawing, and it's reminiscent of the Sphinx. And so the piercing in the ear is the dead giveaway that it's Bast, that it's meant to be Bast. And that would be like something like that's like a slip in, like when you're a pagan and you want to do like you want to slide in ancient wisdom, and you want to like get people like, oh, why is there a ring there, and they feel like, that's interesting, and then you just start like praying about it because you're like, I gotta meditate on that, that's fascinating. And it takes you on this journey where you discover these deities, and we recognize that that's the deity calling you. And so you answer by saying, oh, okay, I recognize this is you. Is there something else you want to tell me? And that's how you open up the conversation. And then they share, and then if you're willing, you share with them, and you share however you want to, and you learn what that looks like. And they take you on a journey, and you have a journey of your own free will. And that's the key for me of the blessing that I want to share with everybody about the gods and the old gods, is that they are here as spiritual guides, and they respect our free will. And we really need to know that, and that also we have to be able to understand the exchange that happens, because it's not just what happens in church when we tithe. It's not just what happens in church when we make offerings. It's not just what happens in church when we fast for things for church, but it's also about the direct connection that we build with our own ancestors. And I want to say it like that because it was hinted at in here for me to say this, so I'm saying it, I was very clearly shown that the gods are ancestors. And so we really have to recognize that the power of our ancestors is the power of the gods. And so the more we learn about the ancestors that existed on the planet and how powerful they were, is when we begin to realize that the more we're willing to learn, the more we're willing to lead, is the more we learn to follow. Or the more we learn to follow is the more we learn to lead, when we're really learning from real leaders, right? So that's that key, is for me, having harnessed learning from the gods. Whenever I'm around people who have not been open to their ancestors, to ancestral knowledge, it's because they have not learned to have an understanding of what the word God and the word gods means. That deity, the theos, right? Because when we get into theos, we also can get into theos, the O and the A, when you break it down. And so you realize like it was very easy to switch between gender when we talked about deity. And so the fact that we don't is simply because we are not allowed to even have that word. So this is why I give you the word, and give you permission to play with the word. And if you really want to break out of that, if you really want to go into like renegade thought patterns, I recommend that you check out Mary Daly, because she gives herself permission, and she gives all of us permission to challenge all the words that we think and to resituate them however we choose, but to do it in a way that honors us and honors our path and honor the spirit that's coming through to communicate with us in our devotion to however we want to worship, but that we choose to make it our own, but we do it with reverence. But we have to challenge our thinking so that we can honor the word in a new way. And on the subject of the word and getting right with your own energy and the word, I recommend the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and I recommend that for everybody at every age. When I read it, I remember thinking, I would have been able to remember and understand this at a very young age. I wish I had access to it. And so I wish for all of us to read it and to share it. And that's why I created Love Prayers as a thing that I will share when I remember, when I have time. Because I wanted to really call us into honoring the teachings of being our word and understanding that when we live our word and when we understand what it means to live in the dream of hell and to live in the dream of heaven, and that the heart is the way that we transition into the dream of heaven as individuals, then we are able to truly give love to everything, which is what we need to be doing now. Page 99. Bast Goddess Game. As the primary goddess of creativity and one of the oldest of the matriarchal line of goddesses, Bast is powerful and has a close cousin in the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet, who is the eye of the sun. Think of ways that you use creativity in your life and make a list in your goddess journal or notebook. Using crayons, colored markers, or whatever pleases you, draw your own personal image of Bast. Just let the image emerge. Oh, emerge. Jesus Christ. Emerge. I am emergence. I remember one time I was at Los Angeles City College and I was taking this philosophy class. I had not studied for this final. It was the midterm. I did not study for it. But I had read most of the chapters in the book. I had skimmed them because as a goddess girl, I had studied the goddesses of Buddhist traditions. And so I had a good sense for the philosophical, backings of Buddhism and Hinduism, which is the class I was taking, Eastern philosophy. And so I'm taking this Eastern philosophy class. And so it's on Hinduism and Buddhism. And I had never really studied Atman and Brahman and that Trinity. And so that was pretty much the concept that I had to tap into. And I remember the bravery for me of walking into the class, walking into the test, and being like, in these teachings they say that we are the all, and that we have access to the all. And I feel this, and I know that this is true wisdom. This is truth. So if this is true, and I've been already tapped into all this other wisdom, and I know this is true, then I know this, and I'm not gonna sweat this. I'm gonna just do it because I feel like I can just do this. And I don't care if I'm supposed to be freaking out about this stupid test and I'm supposed to be balling up in anxiety. I don't want to do that. Like this is my favorite subject. This is my thing. I can do this, And I went in and I was like, you know what? If I am truly in touch with all intelligence, then that means that all these people and we all share the same mind. So everything they have studied, I have access to. And as a matter of fact, I remember this guy I knew, he used to do this shit, and he used to make fun of me because I didn't believe that he could really do it. And he really did it, and he used to piss me off. And he used to make fun of me. You know, and I always said, I gotta prove to myself that this is possible. Why don't I believe this is possible? You know? And so I just want to celebrate. I want to celebrate all these moments, you know? And then I'm going to go back and read this last paragraph of the game. You should always feel invited to pause at any time if you feel you need to savor the kernels. Using crayons, colored markers, or whatever pleases you, draw your own personal image of Bast. Just let the image emerge from inside yourself. And don't worry about art. The idea is to make a symbolic representation of this goddess as you experience her within yourself. The idea is to make a symbolic representation of this goddess as you experience her within yourself. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen nor touched, but are felt in the heart. Who knows? Who knows who that's from? Guess. Pause and come back. Haha. Major pause. Helen Keller. And if you don't know who Helen Keller is, that's your extra credit. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen nor touched, but are felt in the heart. Helen Keller. Helen Keller. Helen Keller. Keller. Helen. Helen Keller was blind. She was a pioneer woman. She lived during the I have been asked to share this process that I go through of controlling myself while I cough. I have been asked to share this because I have been specifically told that people are having a problem with this bullshit called uncontrollable coughing. And I was brought to memory that I actually went through a period, a very short period, where I was experiencing that. And I said, I do not have any intention of living like this for the rest of my life, so I will figure this out. Why am I doing this? So I have been asked to share myself in this manner. And so here I am. Yes, love you too. And your love is most appreciated to be put in a comment so I could see it, because I need y'all to put a 3-dimensional message. Thank you, Vera. Thank you, Vera. The goddess teaches that we always must remember in our coming back to goddess prayer style of honoring her in us. And when we honor her in us, we remember to pray for ourselves and our needs. This is just goddess teachings I'm sharing here. Starhawk shares that often in her work, in her teachings. The rememory of how we position ourselves in our prayer lives. Because in Christianity, we do not learn to center ourselves in our prayer lives. And so we honor the goddess in that way by honoring ourselves. Helen Keller is a symbol of felt reality, the felt reality of existence informing someone. She loved music, but she was deaf and blind. Hey y'all, it's Rev Ma, and I wanted to share, I felt called to share, and I wanted to start with, so I've been going through a clearing of the throat, and my whole family is going through a clearing of the throat, and we are doing it on behalf of the collective. And for me personally, my portion of clearing it for the collective in living that you are your own medicine, and the ways that we heal ourselves in the specificities of our own personalities, the ways that we heal ourselves is how we contribute to the relief in the collective of the weight of the negativity and the stuck energy and the lower chakra density conflicts and dramas